Hey, good morning, team. It is Tuesday, October 1st. I'm Amy Corr. I'm here with Kevin Van Eck, and we are at the Goose Island office. October, Kevin.
It is. October.
Spooky season.
Yes.
We have to start wearing orange and black. I've got black on.
I don't know if those are my colors, Amy.
I don't know if you could do it.
I don't know. I have to search my closet.
All right, we have got some great stuff to share with you today. We are going to be talking KYC. Not to confuse with KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, but KYC, know your competition. 'Tis the season. We are moving towards business planning. We're moving towards what is 2025 maybe going to look like. And this is a great thing to be doing right now to sharpen your skills and make sure you've got the competitive advantage. So we're going to kick into it, but first fill up your coffee, and then we can jump into the next episode of Coffee with Amy and Kevin.
Let's do it. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Amy.
Good morning.
All right, so you've got your coffee full. We're going to talk about KYC, like you said. And this is a lesson really from other industries in a lot of ways. Whether it's retail, whether it's products, consumer goods, every other company does competitive research to understand what their competitors are doing and offering so that they can elevate themselves. And that's exactly what we want to talk about today is, we spend a lot of time focusing only on what we do, which is important, but we also have to look around to make sure that we are able to differentiate ourselves and raise the bar. Because if we keep doing the same thing everyone else is doing, why would they choose us? It's just luck at that point.
Yeah.
Or you're relying on your wit and charm. So we have to be able to provide more, whether that's experience, whether that's marketing resources, exposure, whatever it might be. And we've got, I think, 4 steps
that we're going to talk about today. To talk about, yes. And we do know that each and every one of you is very charming, but you're right. I think to take your business seriously and move it to the next level, you have to find time to do this type of thing. We oftentimes call it like a SWOT analysis, right? Looking at your strengths, that's great, but really kind of where are your weaknesses and your opportunities to be able to get even better. Because if I were to look at when I first got into the business and the things that I did in 2004, 2005, those would not cut the mustard today. They just wouldn't. Think about how fast I think things are now, and the expectations of the consumer have grown incredibly. So the bar has really been raised. And so I think it's mindful and really important for all of us every year to be taking some time, and this is a good time right now, to really recognize, how can I up my game? And I think the first piece is really doing your research. And I know that does not sound fun, and for a lot of us, it's not the greatest thing to do, but you got to look at the numbers, right? You've got to start figuring out who is your biggest competition in your marketplace and what do their numbers look like and how do they compare to yours. I also talk with a lot of agents who their goal is to increase either their number of transactions or their average sales price. And here's the reality is if you don't know who is really owning that next average sale price market, it's going to be harder for you to get there because if you're really wanting to increase, let's say, to luxury, you've got to take a look at what are all of those agents who are doing it right now in your marketplace, what are they doing, right? So it's understanding what they're doing, but also looking at their stats, their numbers, because when you go into a listing presentation, I think the thing that's so powerful is that if you know about your competition, you don't want to go in and be negative or say negative things. I think that's super important, but if you talk to them about being in competition with others and they bring up another brokerage firm or another agent, if you've got data, you're able to say, look, based on the data, they're a great broker, but they don't really focus on your micro market. And here are my stats that actually show how I can create success for you. So it isn't necessarily saying anything bad, but you're using data to point out where you might be able to be more successful for them, right? But you can't do that in a listing presentation, and you can't, kind of one up or create that opportunity for yourself if you don't really take a look at all of the people or the competition in your marketplace and really understand where you sit amongst all of them and where there might be opportunity.
Absolutely. It allows you to give that apples to apples comparison based on data and keeps you away from steering into the
not emotion. It doesn't make you look defensive, right? Because I think sometimes we can look like that if we don't have kind of the stats, the data to back it up.
And you can't argue with stats or data.
Yeah.
All right, so number 2, you got to look at the strengths and weaknesses. So you've got the numbers, you've got the details on how they're working with their listings, what their results have been, but you got to look at their strengths and weaknesses a little bit deeper to understand how you can elevate or leverage yours. So a couple ways to do that. One good way is to look at their business structure. How are they different from you, your top competitors? Do they have a big team? Do they have a medium team? Are they a sole individual? Do they have an admin? Do they have an assistant? Look at their business structure, because that's one way to differentiate yourself, especially in communication with clients. The second piece would be, I would look at their reviews. Look at their reviews that their clients are leaving them, the testimonials. That will give you a good idea on the value that that agent or team is providing to their clients, and how you might differentiate yourself from that, or do the same thing but elevate it just a little bit more. You need to focus on it. And then the last piece here is really, as you said, you don't ever want to speak poorly. Never get negative. It's got to be all about you and what you're going to do. But when you know these strengths and you know their weaknesses, it informs you into how you can leverage yours. This is the biggest part. It will tell you what's most important if you want to take over that market, if you want to increase your average sales price, as you said. It will show you exactly what you need to do to start taking market share out of that market.
And I love it, because when you focus on your strengths and you know that they're your strengths versus maybe the competition, and you say, these are one of this is something that I do and have really integrated into my business because I know it creates success for my clients.
Yes.
It also creates this opportunity where they then might ask the competition how well they do what you know you're known for, right? Which I absolutely love. So it's being able to do it in a way where you, to your point, you're really focusing on what you can do to create success for them. And by pointing that out, it might cause them to question, hey, is everybody else kind of doing this?
I love that.
Right?
Yeah, you're prompting them to actually ask the competition the question that they aren't able to answer, or they're not able to answer well.
Yeah. And, and I think that this kind of leads into knowing your competitors' strengths and weaknesses really also then takes you to your next piece, which is differentiating yourself, right? And you can't be all things to all people. As you had said, know what their business structure is. And if you are an individual agent and you do have some teams that you're competing with in your marketplace, figure out what your value is and what differentiates what you bring versus a team structure. Not everybody is going to necessarily like the team route, and they might really love what you're talking about, but you need to make sure that you're using that language to differentiate them.
Absolutely.
And then it's that age-old thing that we talk about all the time, Kevin, is articulating your value, and what are the things that, make you different as an agent. And this could be even just your own life experience. Maybe you were in the financial world before you got into real estate, and because of that experience, you have specific things that you can offer clients. And we want it to be stuff that's really specific to you.
Right.
I think when we teach that Getting What You're Worth class, we always say, I don't want you to sound like anybody else out there, right? What are some of the nuggets of what you've done? So a powerful way to get this across is storytelling. Real life stories of things that you've done to help clients. And that will really show them that type of value that you can bring. And it makes it easier for them to also understand, because they're asking on the inside, why is this going to matter to me? Why is working with Kevin really going to move the needle? And when he's sharing stories with me as the client, that's going to make a huge difference. So being able to figure out how to differentiate yourself, but it takes the time of figuring out your stats. What is different about you? Going through that exercise and actually writing them down and saying, these are the 3 reasons why when I work with clients, I create success for them and they are repeat customers for life. Figure out those 3 golden nuggets, and that's going to help you when it comes to the competition.
That's great. Number 4, and to wrap it up, this is where you need to look outside of this is really more about understanding innovation and what's coming next. So part of this is knowing your competitors' strengths and weaknesses, knowing what they're doing, understand your value proposition, but understand how you can then raise the bar even further. So if you see certain agents using marketing tactics, so at one point, the 3D Dollhouse tour was a super innovative thing.
Yep.
Now with Matterport, with who owns VHT, we have all these different companies that are doing the 3D Dollhouse. That's no longer innovative.
Yeah.
So look at what your competitors aren't doing. And start doing that. So you can see what they're doing, if it's drone tours, if it's all these different marketing tools. do something different or better. Because if you're doing the same thing that they're doing, or if, to your point at the very beginning, if you're doing what you were doing in 2005 and you're talking about how you get professional photography, that is a baseline. Like, you do not get credit for having somebody take your photos instead of you on your iPhone 8. So the key is make sure that you're looking at what your competitors are doing and what can you do to raise the bar to differentiate yourself. And you have to do this frequently because technology is moving forward faster than ever.
So fast.
Marketing resources moving faster than ever. Advertising, the algorithms on social, all of this. So it doesn't mean you have to be an expert at everything, and you don't have to do everything, but you have to do some things that raise the bar for the consumer that would take the question out of their mind as to why they would hire you.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you have as an advantage is social media has so many real estate agents out there across the country doing really cool stuff. And I love following people that are not necessarily in our market just to see what are they doing. Are they doing things a little bit differently? Are they saying things differently? And build relationships with other agents that are outside of your market. You know, collaborating and coming up with great ideas together that you each can take back to your own marketplace is awesome.
Huge.
So, you know, lean into that because I think it's a huge advantage. And we've got in and of itself just a phenomenal network in Christie's. You know, we've got people from the West Coast to the East Coast, up north and south. So, you know, maybe tapping in and just starting to figure out what are they doing in Atlanta that's super cool, or what am I seeing our partners doing in New York? Because
and internationally too, there's some cool things happening in Europe. And Australia and these other countries.
And the last thing I'm going to say too is that you have to make time for this. You know, we had an agent, Nikki Rocco, who showed us her business plan. And one of the things that she focuses on every week is what are the new strategies I need to be thinking about to make sure that I stay competitive. And she literally will carve that into 1 day a week, even if it's 1 hour that she takes to constantly do that analysis on her business, because it won't make time for you. So you've got to make sure that this is definitely part of your plan.
That's right. You'll be 3 years down the line doing the same thing, and you're like, too late.
Or like 20 if you know you're still doing stuff from 2004.
And this is a PSA: if your headshot is from 2004, it's time to update.
True.
All right, so what are you going to do this week? One thing, you're going to research one of your competitors, and you're going to come up with 2 ways that you can elevate or raise the bar beyond what they're doing. Improve what you're doing or add something new. The same way Nikki's taking time to do it, we want you to do that with one competitor this week. Yeah,
and then share with us how it's going. Share with us on social. Make it a great Tuesday. We hope you found this information helpful, insightful. Until we see you next week, remember, you got this.
You got this.